A new oxygen sensor runs somewhere between $50 and $200. That's not the expensive part. The expensive part is how many people end up paying for one twice same code, same car, sometimes within a few weeks of the first replacement. Here's why that keeps happening. No manufacturer in the world, not Toyota, not Honda, not Bosch, not Denso, sells a remanufactured oxygen sensor. If cleaning one could genuinely restore it to spec, that would be a real industry by now. It isn't. Nobody's built it. Because nobody's found a way to do it cheaper than just replacing the part. So if your check engine light just came on with an oxygen sensor code, or your Corolla, Civic, Accord, or Camry just failed an emissions check because of one, this is for you. And here's what it's not. It's not spraying WD-40 on the tip and wiping it off. It's not pulling the sensor and soaking it in a jar of gasoline overnight. Those are the two most repeated fixes on the internet. And neither one does what people think it does. What almost nobody explains is why the sensor got fouled in the first place, and the actual process technicians use before they commit to any repair. A process that either saves you a part you didn't need or tells you honestly that you do. Stay to the fourth step. That's the one that decides whether this was a 5-minute non-issue or the first sign of something bigger happening inside your engine. An oxygen sensor is small, but what it's doing is precise. Inside the tip sits a ceramic element, usually zirconia, that generates a tiny voltage based on the oxygen difference between the exhaust gas outside it and a reference air chamber inside it. Your engine computer reads that voltage roughly every fraction of a second and adjusts the fuel mixture accordingly. It's less like a filter, more like a very sensitive nose. And that nose only works if its surface is actually exposed. Contamination isn't the sensor getting dirty the way a windshield gets dirty. It's a layer, ash, soot, silicone residue, physically blocking exhaust gas from reaching the element at all. The sensor isn't broken. It's insulated. And insulation is a much harder problem to reverse than dirt. Step 1. Diagnose before you touch it. Most people see a code and assume the sensor failed. Often it didn't. A code pointing at an oxygen sensor can just as easily mean an exhaust leak feeding it extra air, a rich fuel mixture caused by something else entirely, or wiring damage near the connector. Before anything gets cleaned or replaced, the code and its freeze frame data need to be read properly. Sensor fault and sensor is the real problem are not always the same sentence. Practical takeaway: don't buy a new sensor off a single code alone. Confirm it's actually the sensor before spending anything. That confirms whether you have a contamination problem worth investigating. If you do, the sensor is about to tell you exactly what caused it. Step 2. Read the color, pull the sensor, and look at the metal protection tube around the tip. Its color is essentially a written record of what's been passing over it. A white, chalky, powdery coating usually points to silicone poisoning, often from the wrong sealant used near the intake. A green or yellow tint often means coolant is reaching the exhaust, which is a much bigger problem than the sensor itself. A gray, sooty ash coating typically means the engine is burning oil. Heavy black soot usually means the fuel mixture has been running rich. Practical takeaway: the color tells you whether you're fixing a $5 sealant mistake or a serious repair. Green or yellow means stop. That's a possible head gasket or coolant leak, and it needs a professional look before you go any further. Whatever that color tells you also tells you whether cleaning is even worth attempting. Which brings us to the part almost every online guide gets wrong. Step 3. The controlled diagnostic clean, and its real limit here's the honest version of the Japanese cleaning method. It isn't a secret product. its restraint. Technicians will sometimes use an electrical contact cleaner or carb cleaner, sprayed lightly on the exterior protection tube only, with a soft brush to remove light surface soot as a diagnostic step to see whether a marginal sensor's response improves enough to confirm the diagnosis. Not as a repair. They never present it as one. This will not dissolve ash baked onto the ceramic element itself, and it won't undo silicone poisoning. Both are effectively permanent. A contaminated sensor might pass a one-time test after an exterior wipe down, but the part isn't restored, and treating it like a real fix is exactly how people end up buying the same sensor twice. Practical takeaway: use this only to confirm what you're dealing with, never as your final answer. If the code returns within days, that confirms the sensor is done. That's useful. But it's still incomplete, because a clean sensor bolted back into a contaminating environment doesn't stay clean. Everything so far has been about the sensor. The next part is about why it fouled at all. Skip it, and you'll be having this exact same conversation again in a few thousand miles, sensor or no sensor. Quick thing, if this is useful, tap like. It genuinely helps us keep researching these. Okay, back to it. Step 4. Fix the upstream, cause this is the step that actually matters. A sensor doesn't fail in isolation. It fails because something upstream is putting oil, coolant, silicone, or unburned fuel where it shouldn't be. Clean or replace the sensor without fixing that source, and you haven't repaired anything, you've restarted a timer. If the cause was a sealant, the fix is using a sensor-safe, low-VOC product next time, and letting it fully cure before startup. If it was oil consumption, that likely traces back to worn valve seals or piston rings, a separate, larger repair conversation. If it was a rich mixture, that could be a leaking injector or a failing fuel pressure regulator. Each of these has a real fix. None of them is spray and hope. Practical takeaway: treat the sensor as the messenger, not the problem. Fix what's feeding it contamination, and the sensor, new or tested clean, will actually last. Why nobody tells you this? 2 structural reasons this gets skipped. First, parts retailers and quick fix content are optimized to sell you a sensor or a 5-minute video, not a proper root cause diagnosis. A 10-minute explanation of upstream causes doesn't perform as well as spray this. Save $150. Second, most of the cleaning advice online traces back to forum posts from 20 years ago, repeated and re-repeated without anyone checking it against what's actually happening at the ceramic element. None of this is a conspiracy. It's a misalignment of incentives, and you're the one who has to fill that information gap. What to actually do: 1. Read the actual code and freeze frame data before assuming sensor failure. 2. Inspect the protection tube's color to identify the contamination source. 3. If coolant contamination is suspected, get a professional inspection before doing anything else. 4. Use an exterior clean only as a diagnostic check, never as a final repair. 5. Fix the upstream cause sealant choice, oil consumption, or fuel mixture before or alongside any sensor replacement. 6. If replacing, apply anti-seize only to the threads, in a small amount, and torque it to spec. A sensor doesn't really fail, it reports. By the time it triggers a code, it has already told you something went wrong somewhere else in the engine. You just have to be willing to read the message instead of silencing it. That's close to Kaizen, the idea of continuous small correction instead of waiting for one big failure. A technician who follows this process properly isn't chasing a magic cleaning trick. They're catching a small problem before it becomes an expensive one. Drop a comment telling me what car you drive. I read all of them. If this helped, subscribe. because next up, I'm ranking every major Japanese transmission ever built. Worst to best, and the one at the bottom might be sitting in your driveway right now.